So a lot of you probably remember Dan from the YouTube channel What's Inside. He used to live really close to me, so we'd hang out and do videos and projects and stuff all the time. But he moved away, and with 2020 we haven't seen each other a whole lot, and I'm sure he misses all of our adventures together. So what I've decided to do is 3D print a 4,000-pound statue of myself out of concrete and plop it next to his pool at his new house so he doesn't feel so lonely. Let's get started. So let me explain how all of this works. Normally a massive 3D concrete printer isn't used to do statues, but we're taking some liberties with the technology. Usually you would see the designs being used in landscape architecture or commercial facades or even sometimes structural columns. The possibilities are kind of endless, structural elements or even custom furniture. With a printable area of 17 feet by 13 feet by 12 feet, there's a lot of space to work with. Now let me explain how the whole printer works. So we start with this massive shelf of dry mortar, which gets forklift into this machine right here, which is a hopper. The hopper takes that dry powder coming down through this machine and up through the screw into this massive silo. The silo is what holds most of the powder until the printing starts. All of the powder comes down here to the bottom and then once again gets corkscrewed up into the top, still dry powder up there, and then comes down into this blue machine here. We know we can't make concrete out of dry powder, so it comes down here to the powder dosing unit where the admixture and the water get added together to make the mortar. What's interesting is that the water itself is actually chilled because when the concrete is mixed together, it's an exothermic reaction which generates a lot of heat, and that cooler water helps in the printing process. Then the mortar pump takes it along this tube here up into this machine, the giant gantry, where all of the action happens. This long arm right here is actually called the printer head and it's where the concrete is dosed. So as you can tell, it's quite a bit more complicated than your average 3D printer with all of the temperature and the chemicals and the concrete being pumped into this massive machine. I think it's going to turn out pretty cool. To get the correct proportions and dimensions for my body, we had to 3D scan myself by taking a camera and circling myself multiple times and then inputting that video file into a program that could digitally map the data points into a 3D image, which turned it into a pretty decent rendering of my body. We had to clean it up and polish it up for the final rendering, but the final statue is going to be a pretty good representation of me. It took Michelangelo about 2 years to make the David statue. We're going to do it here in about 2 hours. So we're going to start by printing the legs, and we're going to print it in 3 separate sections. We could go just from the ground all the way to the top, but since this is super complex, we decided to stay on the safe side and just assemble it after the fact. We're in Utah right now, and you can actually see misters surrounding the whole printing area. Because it's so dry, we have to keep the concrete moist as it's printing. Print head is getting lined up with the pallet where we'll be printing on. You can see the laser right there, which is keeping track of where the print head is going to be. Just making sure there's no obstructions right now before it starts printing. Right now the printer is just spewing out the first little bit of concrete just so that it's going to be a clean and uniform mixture as it starts with my legs. And this is all moving in real time. The printer is actually this fast. So right here we see my left foot and my right foot, and then we have a center structure in the middle to keep the whole thing supported as we are printing. We're putting sand right here inside of the feet because as the feet come over the top of themselves, there needs to be some kind of support inside of it to help keep it structural as it's building up. So the printer right now is moving up and down the gantry, as well as this shaft here can go up and down as the legs are being built. We have the mortar being pumped up through the black hose coming down, and then we have the activator being pumped in right at the same time next to the nozzle. The activator being pumped in next to the nozzle is what makes the concrete cure or harden super fast so that each of these layers can support each other as they go up. You can see the sand here doing its job, supporting the layers as the top of my shoe gets created. Once we get about to my ankles, the statue will start to support itself and the sand will no longer be needed. And when we lift the whole thing up, the sand will just come out the bottom. And everything happening at the exact same time produces a successful print. You can see the exothermic reaction happening on top of the concrete right now as the steam comes off of it. And the moisture in the air from these misters is what helps keep that from cracking and allows it to dry at the correct rate. So we've been going for about 10 minutes now. You can see that we're almost up to my knees. We can see the massive center support between my legs, and the concrete is still coming out nice and neat. It's gonna be hollow all the way through the inside, and normally you can just leave a print just like that, but since we're gonna transport it 4 hours on the freeway, we are gonna fill this up with concrete, which makes it heavier, but also makes it so that it won't break while we're traveling with it. We wanna surprise Dan with a complete statue and not a pile of gravel. Still kind of blows my mind the level of detail we're able to get out of the concrete printing. You can see the kind of wrinkles from where my pants were when we did the scanning. The statue itself isn't even printing like directly in one straight line. It's building off of itself as it goes up, which is super impressive. We are just about done getting up there to the belt line, give or take. It's kind of crazy to see how tall this is. My head is only coming to the belt line of the statue. Dan's gonna be so excited. A bunch of water should start coming out of the nozzle here in a second, which should clean it up and get it ready for our next print. So you can see this trail right here is the original concrete line that kind of started the whole print, and we can tell that it's already hardening, which is much different than normal concrete because of that activator that's being added near the nozzle. Normal 3D printing with, you know, the plastic filament takes forever, but this is surprisingly fast. So now we are getting ready to print the second piece. We have my legs over there, and that circular shape you see right there is the base of the torso, which is gonna end up on top of my legs. The cool thing about this facility is that this print area is on these rollers right here, and the whole thing can just be conveyed out to a semi-truck dock over there. Because this thing is gonna weigh around 4,000 or 5,000 pounds when we're done, and carrying it out by hand is gonna be difficult. So it's good that we have a method of unloading it down here at the end of the dock. You can tell this right here is my belt line, and then this is where my hands were resting on my hip. Since the angle of my arm here is so intense, we're gonna prop it up with some foam really quick. It's already kind of started to harden and solidify. There's just a lot of weight as the arm builds up and comes out over here. And so we're gonna make sure it doesn't crack along the seam while it has time to harden the rest of the way. So the concrete printer has different nozzles. This one is a 30mm, but they can go all the way up to 50 or all the way down to 20, depending on what the project requires. 30 is just a good middle ground. So now it's pretty easy to tell what it is. This is my back with my arms right here off to the sides. These inner cavities are what we're gonna be punching out later. Oh yeah, not too shabby. Turned out good. You can kind of see the resemblance. So what's interesting, inside of here is actually kind of like a sauna. It's all like steamy and humid because all of the heat that's escaping while it's curing or drying. And if we take the laser thermometer, we can see that we are at 47 degrees, while this one, which has had a couple hours to cure, is down at 35 already. And these over here, which have been done for a couple days now, they're down about 22. So as the prints dry or cure, they finish and get colder. So now it's time to print the head, and it's kind of the same basic concept as the feet. Since the curve of my shoulders is so tight, we're adding some sand and foam underneath to kind of support the 3D print as it grows. And that kind of layer construction is the same with any kind of 3D printing. And the bigger the statue, the easier it is to print the gradual angles, since there's more room for the layers to build off each other. That's why we decided to go with a 12-foot tall statue for Dan's surprise, even if it will weigh as much as an elephant when we're done. See how close we can get to the profile. I think I'm looking up like this. It's kind of crazy you can get that level of detail. With concrete, you can even see where my eyes and nose are. This is insane. Almost there. Let's take a look at the head. Oh no! We'll let it sit for a second. Woo. Should I grow a ponytail like that? Let me know down in the comments. So obviously a statue standing on its own two legs isn't going to be super balanced, so we need to build a base which will be about 1 foot tall and about 4 feet wide with sufficient mass to keep the statue upright while it's standing. We're going to use a weave pattern which just kind of looks cool. Then we'll infill the base with concrete just like we're going to do the statue later, along with some rebar and some anchor points for the crane when we lift it over Dan's fence into the backyard. So the prints are done. They are stiff right now, but we're gonna give them a couple more days to solidify before we infill them and transport them. So while it'll be a couple days for us, it'll just be a couple seconds for you. So it is time to put myself together. The concrete has had about 3 days to cure, so it's not as hard as it's gonna be in like a week or so, but it's hard enough that we can finally assemble myself on the base, which already has concrete and rebar put in it, so we can crane it over to Dan's pool, you know, the gift he never wanted. I do have some clear hose. Since it's gonna be next to Dan's pool, we're gonna turn it into a fountain. Hopefully that works out, but it should be a pretty fun day. We're putting some plastic wrap around the leg so that the straps, when we suspend it from the forklift, don't rub up against the concrete. So since I'm dropping this statue off at Dan and Lincoln's house from, you know, the YouTube channel What's Inside, they're probably gonna wanna see what's inside the statue, and I'm gonna leave them a bunch of presents that'll blow their minds. So this thing is much bigger than I initially anticipated. We have rebar down in the sides as well as bent down into the arms, so when the concrete solidifies around the rebar, it'll give it a bit more structure as we are transporting it 4 hours down to St. George. We're using quick set concrete, so it solidifies in about 30 to 40 minutes, and since we're doing it in increments, it's not putting a whole lot of pressure on the layers below it as it solidifies and dries. If we did it all at once, there might be too much pressure at the bottom and the whole thing might spill out. So we're being careful. So we've put silicone between the 2 layers of concrete, and that silicone will help the concrete from spilling out between the 2 halves. And the previous concrete was right about here. The new concrete will finish right about here, which will give some structural rigidity to the midsection, right above the belt line. So it's time to drill a mouth for our statue, and we know that the mouth is about halfway between the nose and the chin, so we're gonna go right about here. To get through concrete, we know that concrete is a Mohs 5 to 7, give or take. So I have a diamond drill bit here, which has diamonds laced around the edges. And since diamonds are a level 10, we should be able to get through the cement just fine. Perfect. The massive concrete vibrator is used to jiggle up my internal so the concrete can seep into every nook and cranny while it's still liquid. Once it gets hard, it's game over. There's no more adjusting hard concrete. And now it's time we bring over the best looking part of the project, my head. We've put a piece of rebar up in through the shoulders to kind of keep the concrete in the head and the shoulders together, and hopefully that holds it during our 4-hour jaunt down the road. So every time we seem to redo the calculations on this, it weighs more and more. We started off thinking it would be 4,000 pounds, and I think we're up to about 6,000 now. And this time around, instead of slinging the head, we're actually gonna leave it on a pallet and just kind of wiggle it into place on my shoulders, right where a head should be. And it is done. Even though we use quick-set concrete inside the statue, which hardens in about 30 or 40 minutes, it still takes about 7 days for it to get to about 70% of its full holding capacity. But you know, after about a week, you can drive on it and walk on it, and that's when we're gonna start transporting it as well, to make sure the whole thing is structurally sound and it won't fall apart if we hit a bump while we're driving. But overall, I think it turned out pretty good. Pretty similar likeness to me. It's pretty impressive we can get that level of detail with a 3D concrete printer. Like if we look at the ears, you can even see my ear outline in the statue. I will give him a couple more days to stand here and dry. It'll be a couple days for us, but just a couple seconds for you guys. And there he is in all of his glory, ready to transport. Now, when I started this project, I didn't quite comprehend the magnitude of transporting a 6,000-pound statue of myself 4 hours down to St. George. There's just no easy way to do it. We know we can't transport it upright because it would probably hit like an overpass or an electrical wire or something like that. And so we have to lay the statue down. And there needs to be something underneath the statue that'll support all of the pressure points equally. So what we need is a mattress. Luckily, I have friends over at Purple, and they're pretty confident that their mattress can support all 6,000 pounds of me. We're doubling it up and using 2 full-size Purple mattresses. So Purple has a few different mattresses. This is one of their 2-inch Purple grids. The Purple grid is designed to dynamically flex under pressure, providing complete support, which is exactly what we're after with our statue. Now we just have to get me from here to here in one piece. The purple part of the Purple mattress is made with a hyper-elastic polymer, and the Purple grid is built to last under practically any pressure. There's over 1,800 open-air channels that let you sleep cool. Not that the statue will actually need to, but for my personal Purple mattress that I've had for about a year now, during the summer it's great, and during the winter we had some flannel sheets to help warm things up a bit. It's definitely a cool mattress. The Purple grid inherently has motion isolating technology to relieve all those pressure points, so the statue will be evenly supported all the way from its head down to its concrete little toes. This is going to be quite the durability test for a Purple mattress. I don't think any mattress is specifically designed to handle 6,000 pounds. It'll be interesting to see what it looks like tomorrow after we lift the statue back up. So we're using a long tether around the waist to keep everything balanced. We're going to set it down onto the trailer and just lay it back onto the mattresses. So we've added a pallet and a 4x4 to kind of conform to the cavity between my shoulder blades, and then the mattresses should cushion everything else. Got myself strapped in tight. Now it's time to take the statue, the mattresses, the trailer, and the truck all the way down to St. George to keep Dan company. We are right behind Dan's house right now, so he could look over his fence. That's his house right over there. He could look over his fence anytime and see us, so it could just be go time at any point. The statue did survive the trip very well. We are excited about that. There it is. It's you. Pulling in behind Dan's house right now. It is definitely time. Raising up. Yes. Finally, it's happening. That is 6,000 pounds being raised up into the air right now. Yeah, careful, careful. Looking pretty good. Let's see how the mattresses did. Not bad. Check that out. These mattresses have gone over 300 miles with 6,000 pounds laying on top of them, and they're still totally fine. Let me try it out. That's not a testament to a good mattress. I don't know what is. Huge thanks to Purple for sponsoring this video and for helping us out. I don't think the statue would have made it without the soft support underneath. So I'll leave a link down in the video description. Cambry and I really do love our Purple mattress, so it wasn't just a sponsored video. We do like these guys. Now let's get the statue in Dan's yard. This crane is an 80-ton crane, which means it can lift a lot of weight near the crane's base, but the further you go away from the crane, the less weight it can hold. Kind of like if you have weight down near your arm, it's easy to hold, but the farther away you get from your body, the heavier it gets. Same thing with the crane. That's why we had to get the 80-ton crane to carry the 6,000-pound statue. And so far, it's totally worth it. So far, so good. I'm gonna run around to the front and meet him by the pool. Yes. We tried gluing these masts down to the bottom, but it didn't stick. Apparently rubber and concrete are hard to glue together. Hi, Leslie. All right, we're getting Dan out of his office right now. Come on out, buddy. So you know how you want me to move down to St. George, right?
Dude, I don't know what's happening right now, but I'm really nervous to go out here and see what's happening.
So
okay.
I've actually decided to make it a little less lonely down here for you. And I've 3D printed a 6,000-pound statue of myself.
What the?
Out of concrete.
How? What is this? Look at this crane.
So we're gonna bring that over here and put it next to your pool, and so it'll just keep you company.
It's concrete?
Concrete, solid concrete, 6,000 pounds.
You're bringing that into my yard?
Uh-huh, permanently.
Permanently?
I mean, it's 6,000 pounds, so good luck.
Oh my gosh. See that pool right there?
No. Oh, no way.
Okay, that's kind of amazing, actually.
Yeah.
The closer it gets, the bigger it gets. It's so big.
Oh my gosh, like we really are keeping this forever.
Yep, it is now yours. You are the lucky, proud new owners of a JerryRigEverything statue.
Where should we put it so that someday if we need to see what's inside of it, we can do it?
Actually, I have put inside of it.
No.
Uh-huh.
No.
But my audience doesn't know that yet, so I bleeped it out. And so
what? They
are gonna be expecting a video on your end.
Maybe we put a little further away from the water then. Look at Leslie.
I can't believe this is happening. I told her thank you because I didn't know what to say.
It's good to see you, by the way.
I was like, it's a present.
Okay, now boom up a little bit.
It's a present, so I have to say thank you.
What in the world? Look what's come out of his mouth.
Yeah, it's a fountain, bro. I'm not gonna put it.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know it was a fountain.
Yep.
Oh.
Yes.
Remember that time when I gave you like thousands of Tootsie Rolls?
Yep.
Yeah, this is quite the payback here.
I just one-upped you, bro.
Yeah.
Unhook it. That's good.
Yes. Whew, that was a logistical experience trying to get this whole thing done. I am so glad it is here and in one piece.
Did you just at your house?
No, yeah, there's a place called Pikus in South Jordan that does 3D concrete printing. You wait till you see the machine, it is incredible.
So what, it's a good thing you don't have hair.
Right?
That would have made it a little more tricky.
It would have been way harder to print a concrete statue with hair.
My face hurts because I'm anxious this whole time. Process it, and I do thank you for the gesture, but this is not really like the aesthetic I was going for.
Gosh, it looks so grand.
The kids are gonna be like, what the heck?
Oh yeah, where are they?
School.
That's funny.
So there's without the nozzle. I like it, we just need to move a little closer to the pool.
For as large as the statue is, I thought it would have a little bit more like spray.
It's just like a
I do like the water feature though. It's pretty funny.
Seeing the 6,000-pound statue flying through the air was definitely the highlight of my day. Dan, now that you've had a couple hours to process, what do you...
I don't know how this even came to be, and I'm not sad about it. Like, it's actually really cool. I was a little nervous about what my wife was gonna say about it, but she kind of likes it. She's like, it's like modern art. And the fact that there is, I don't know if you've told them this, there's inside of this hidden, I'm excited to get inside of it, but I'm gonna keep it around for a little while. I've got some plans. Maybe put some clothes on it, maybe paint it. We've got some things going on that I'm gonna leave it here for a while.
Well, I'm glad you enjoy it. The company we worked with for this project is called Pikus. So if you're interested in 3D concrete printing from a engineering or industrial perspective, I'll leave a link for them down in the description as well. Huge thanks to Dan. Good luck with the statue. It's 6,000 pounds, there's no moving it from here. I'm pretty curious how you're gonna get inside this thing. Come hang out with us on Instagram and Twitter, and thanks a ton for watching. I'll see you around.
Wow.